Hey everybody, it's Charlie from DM Moto, and I have owned my 2006 BMW 330 Ci convertible for about a year and a half at this point. When I first purchased it, it needed suspension, it needed an entire cooling system refresh, and as I came to find out throughout my ownership experience and discovery period, it needed a number of other things, some done by me as I damaged it working on stuff, but others just from neglect from previous owners, and technically just one previous owner family, but they really didn't take care of it all that well. But despite this car dumping all its coolant on me at one point and overheating, and despite it needing over $1,000, I would say multiple thousands of dollars of extra work thanks to complications, I still do enjoy having and particularly driving this car, because for me, this mid-2000s era of vehicles is the ideal type of car to own. So we're going to talk about that here in this ownership update on the 330 Ci. Now, if you do want to see any more on this car, check the link below for our ownership intro video. And I think I also have a dedicated review on the Blue Bus system that we put on this as well as a sound system test on the Harman Kardon audio system here for this last model year of the E46. But this is, in my eyes, one of the most desirable versions of the E46. It is the 330, which means it has the larger 3-liter inline-6 engine, the M54. It is naturally aspirated, so it's putting out around 220 horsepower or so when it was new. If you had the ZHP package, the different exhaust, you got a little bit higher redline and higher horsepower figures. And obviously the M3 would be quite a bit faster, but this one is just strong enough to be exciting as it revs out and you get to listen to that wonderful inline-6. Now, 2006 was the first year of the E90 generation of BMW, which was obviously a big step up in many ways, but the Ci, the coupe and convertible, stuck on for one more model year in the E46. And to me, I think the E46 is one of the best styled BMWs. It's worlds better than what BMW is coming out with these days, but it still looks modern enough that when Alyssa's cruising around in this, you know, she fits in here in Orange County, California. It's still driving a BMW convertible, despite this having scuffed up wheels and dirty paint because we don't clean it very often, and badges that are getting a little faded, and just generally being a used driver spec with about 145,000 miles on it. It still looks like a nice, handsome car. It's not very much a girl's car, not very much a man's car, not overly aggressive, under aggressive. It's just such a nice, beautiful, subtle, but yet stated sort of design. I really do appreciate it, and I keep forgetting that one thing I need to do is just hop on eBay and swap out this badge. I could literally pull it off. I bet you it's about $30 for a new badge. Maybe change out this license plate cover as well. There's little things that I could do to make the car look even that much better. But I don't get to drive it all that often. I have the press cars regularly, and when I get the opportunity to power down the roof and hop in behind the seat here, I just enjoy being in this car. So let's hop in and go for a drive. We're going to keep the top down, use the windows and the windscreen to keep the wind to a minimum. Now, the engine doesn't always come right to life like that. I do think I have a camshaft position sensor that is starting to go out, because sometimes it turns over a bunch, sometimes the idle's a little bit rough, but then sometimes it's totally fine, like this. The steering is heavy. The car is certainly not quick by modern standards, but I appreciate so much about driving this car, and really driving. Oh, yeah, see, that window didn't feel like going up all the way the first time, but it did this time. I appreciate so much about driving these mid-2000s cars because they started to get some technology. You started to see Bluetooth, you started to see basic navigation, you've got niceties like heated seats and good protection, rollover protection, crash protection, airbags, everything like that. But auto manufacturers weren't just shoving technology in for technology's sake like they started to in the 2010s. So a car like this still feels detached and analog enough to be satisfying. We still have a bunch of physical controls. We still have, let's person is walking their dogs as they don't walk their dogs, they just drive around here in circles and have their dogs follow. It's a very interesting choice. But we still have analog gauges that I love looking down at and seeing my speed and my tachometer. We still have hydraulic power steering that is admittedly quite heavy, especially at lower speeds, but feels very real and connected. We have real quality leather that still smells nice and feels nice. The steering wheel has a nice shiny wear into it. Everything is very straightforward and simple and yet satisfying in this car. Let's get a nice little pull out on the road here. Yeah. Now, would this car be more fun as a manual? Absolutely. I would love to have a 6-speed manual in here, but at the end of the day, I wanted a car that Alyssa could comfortably drive. She could learn manual. She's driven before, but I wanted a car that she could comfortably drive on her own whenever she wanted. And I also wanted a car that if friends or family come into town and they want something to drive up the California coast, they again can do so casually, even if they don't drive stick. So we went with the automatic, and believe it or not, this automatic transmission is made by General Motors. It's a GM Moto, but General Motors is actually pretty good at transmissions, and this one is perfectly fine for the duty of this car. Like throwing it into S mode, letting it just kind of wring itself out a little bit more, hold gears a little bit better. So that's, from a configuration standpoint, there's only 2 things I'd change with the car. I wish I had the manual, and I wish it were a better color. I think this gray is nice, but I would prefer a real color, a blue or a red or something like that to really bring out the beauty of the E46 chassis, especially in the convertible here. Other than that, though, I love having the navigation display, even if it is starting to kind of fade out here in many sections. As I said earlier, I added the Blue Bus system on here, which allows us to have Bluetooth radio built in. Now, I went back and forth on whether I wanted to do a full screen swap out to have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and kind of modern features like that, but I opted to just do the Blue Bus because it was a simpler install, but more so, I wanted to keep the real OEM, true to 2006 aesthetic in this car. I didn't want a big touchscreen on here with navigation and everything like that. I like just being able to stream my Bluetooth audio and then be detached and drive this car from a simple kind of mindset. Now, after owning it for over a year, E46 ownership hasn't been terrible, but there has been that regular frustration of, well, it seems like I can't go more than 500-600 miles or so without something going wrong, whether it be a check engine light or something not working properly or the car needing to be addressed in one way or another. Now, for me, who doesn't use this car as a primary driver, that's been okay, and I don't really mind that so much. However, it does erode my confidence to just let Alyssa take this for a long trip or a business meeting or let friends drive it or something like that. They say the difference between Japanese and German cars are reliable if they're maintained exactly as the manufacturer says they should be maintained, whereas Japanese cars are reliable regardless of how they're maintained. So I think the mistake I made with buying this E46 is I should have bought one that was better maintained and just spent the money up front. That would have had fewer headaches and fewer wonderings and frustrations, if you will, about how this car has been owned and how it works and everything and what it needs. Whereas if I were buying a Japanese or American car, I could have just, it doesn't matter how it was owned. If it's cheap, great, use it, abuse it, throw parts at it when it needs, and have a good time. But if I had spent a few extra $1,000s up front on a very well-maintained and appreciated E46, or really any older German car, then I think I would have had a better experience. Like my Boxster, for example. Yeah, that was much lower mileage, but it was also maintained and taken care of very well, which means overall it was a fairly frustration-free ownership experience. However, I did have a water pump go out my Boxster at less than 50,000 miles, so that was frustrating. This car is not very fuel efficient. Part of that is because I like to get on it regularly and hear that inline 6. Another part is being the convertible. It's not as aerodynamic when the convertible top is down. But another part is it's just not a super fuel efficient car. I mean, it's been my fuel economy. I'm at 23.3 miles per gallon since the last time I reset that. No idea when it was, but the fact that this drinks premium fuel and gets well under 30 miles per gallon, it's a bit of a bummer for a car that's not that large. And also not a V8 or anything. But again, just having it right here, having the top down, the sunshine on me, I can have virtually no wind on me as I do right now, or I could drop the windscreen or the windows and have more wind. It's just a peaceful, nice experience. So when I've thought back and forth on, should I sell this, should we get something different, or should we just keep it, I'm kind of like, well, I like having it. I really do. It's such a different experience than the new cars on the new car market that I would rather be driving this very often over whatever press vehicle I have in my driveway. Those are work cars. This is my peaceful car. So as long as it's not failing to start or dumping its coolant or throwing a check engine light, I like it. Regarding that coolant leak, what happened is I got an entire cooling system refresh kit from FCP Euro. However, I kept the original radiator in this car because I broke a little bit of the radiator that I got from FCP Euro. So I just thought, well, rather than take the radiator out, that's not a common failure point for these cars, and the stock radiator was working fine. In fact, I think the radiator had already been replaced, so it was some other aftermarket radiator, but it was I think a Denso unit. So I decided to just keep that radiator in the car, and the lower radiator hose that goes into this car, into the radiator, didn't snap in properly. There's kind of a snap click ring that's supposed to work, and that didn't click properly. I didn't realize that. So as I was driving the car at one point, all of a sudden I saw the temperature gauge spike. So I threw it in neutral, turned the engine off, coasted down, came up, took a look, and realized later on that all of the coolant had poured itself out because that lower radiator hose had popped off. So I put that back on and was not able to, for the life of me. I was shoving, because it's kind of a hard angle in there, but I was pushing as hard as I could to try to get it to click in. I could not get it to click. So I ended up just getting one of those metal, what do you call it, clamps that you can kind of screwdriver down. And I put one of them on there and just kind of put it down, not so tight so that it would break any of the plastic, but tight enough that it should stay on there. And it's been a few thousand miles at this point. Fingers crossed, I think we're okay, but you know, you always got to just keep one eye on your temp gauge when you're driving one of these older E46s. So after about 4,000 miles of ownership in the car, like I said, I like it, I enjoy it. I like having it around as a palate cleanse and a refresher from the rolling pieces of computer that cars have become now here in 2026. I like the simplicity and the beauty and the driving experience of this generation of car. So even if I sold this and got something like an Infiniti G37 convertible or a CLK 350 or 500 or 550, I don't think I'd want to go too much newer than roughly the mid 2000s, because for a secondary car, that's kind of where it peaks for me before cars become frustrating. Not every car. You can still go get a Miata or something like that from the 2010s, or a GR86 or something that is a little bit more of a pure experience, but the E46 still does it for me. I still really appreciate this car. So not a super eventful ownership update, but I will be holding on to the car for a little while longer, unless something happens to it, makes me frustrated, and I dump it and pick up a pristine or maybe less than pristine G37. I think we're going to be sticking with the Bavarian Auto Group. So, thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to know any more about the car, let me know in the comments. Let me know how E46 ownership has been for you, if you have one or did have one. I do feel like I would miss the car if I got rid of it. So, I think that's a good enough reason to hold on to it. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.